Okay, so everything I know about social anxiety that can help other people that are also suffering from bad social anxiety. So, um, excuse me, in that I didn't plan this video, so there's going to be some ums and ahs and some thinking in between because I've just jumped in front of the camera. I've not long woken up, showered, so I'm not completely out of my head. But this is a perfect example to start with of how you can get over your social anxiety and be more confident and be able to express yourself more. Because I think for a lot of people who suffer with social anxiety, that one of the biggest frustrations and pains and disappointments, and it can be very depressing, is not being able to express yourself emotionally when you're in front of people or in front of a camera. And what I mean by that is that there's a lot of fear, and sometimes for some people, and it was the case for me, and many times people are just physically not able to be as emotional as they'd like to be when someone is looking at them, when someone is making eye contact with them, or when they're in amongst a group of people, because there's so much inner social fear and resistance with being judged or coming across wrong or embarrassing themselves. One of the bigger fears is the fear of stuttering or stammering, like when you can't get your words out properly. And obviously when you make that, I'm not going to say it's a mistake, but let's just say it for argument's sake, when you make that social mistake in front of people, there's a feeling like you've almost been caught out. Like, people can now know that you're socially nervous, and they can choose to judge you on that. And obviously no one wants to be scrutinized and judged for their for who they are as a person and how they talk and how they act. So getting out of your head, which is what I'm doing now, is probably the only way and the best way that you can improve expressing yourself when you're around people. Because I know how all of you are feeling now watching this video. I remember when I was younger, right? Like when I was around my own family, this really hurt me inside. It used to really get to me back then. Like, there would be a conversation going on, my mum, my dad, my aunties at Christmas or a birthday. Like, it would be a really good atmosphere in the living room, in the sitting room, and everyone would be speaking. And when it would come to me to add my point to the conversation, like naturally people would look over at me, it'd be my turn. I would literally fall apart with fear and anxiety, and I would get so awkward, and I'd feel so on the spotlight, and I'd feel so embarrassed and frightened and ashamed, and I couldn't really understand what was going on at that point. It was just I couldn't control it. It wasn't something that I could mentally get my head around when I was a teenager. It was a biological response, and it was so overwhelming that I would literally be struggling, like almost shaking and stammering and stuttering. You could just see that it was such a bad struggle. My mum would always like come to the rescue and do her best to rescue me through that situation. So my earlier experiences were struggling to express myself, feeling like I'm not normal in some situations, and I just felt that I just didn't have that self-confidence. I couldn't control my emotions. I couldn't steady myself. I couldn't calm myself down, and just to take my mind off of what other people are thinking about me, even with my own family who loved me a lot, and I loved them very much. And I felt great around them. I felt excited to be there, but when it came to speaking, it was such a terrifying thing for me. So for a lot of people, I can really understand where you're coming from. But moving on many years later, one of the ways in which I got over it was by doing what I'm doing now, by actually consciously knowing, okay, I'm going to go into the situation, and this situation that I'm going to go into, this social situation, whether it's going on a first date, excuse me, whether it's an interview, whether it's a telephone interview, whether it's dealing with going into the bank, whether it's amongst friends, whether it's in front of the camera, whether it's with helping someone else or giving a public talk. I'm alert and I'm aware that this situation is going to trigger me, but I'm ready for it. So when the anxiety and the fear comes up, I'm not going to let it paralyze me, and I'm not going to let it, silence me and just tangle me up socially to the point where I can't express myself and I can't speak and say what I need to say in that situation. And that's what I did. And that's what I'm encouraging any of you to do watching this, whoever you are, for the young women, young men, or young, old, doesn't really matter. People suffer with social anxiety from all ages and backgrounds. So you have to go into a situation knowing, or being quite certain that it's going to trigger you, but you're ready for it. And when I look back when I was younger, although I knew I was socially nervous, a lot of the times I wasn't prepared to be triggered, if that makes sense. So when it did come to me getting triggered, it was such a shock to the system. It was basically, even though it wasn't true in reality, but as far as my emotions were concerned, it was like someone attacking me out of the blue, and I'm not expecting it. I'm walking down the street. That was the equivalent of how I felt. But when I started to take on board what I'm telling everyone today in this video, my confidence just went from strength to strength, and my ability to express myself in social situations which made me fearful and triggered me really started to improve. So that's the first part I want to share with people. The next bit is momentum. The worst place to be when you've got social anxiety is in isolation for long periods of time. And I know it's an irony, because what's going on at the moment with the coronavirus and the constant rules changing of being able to meet, social distancing. But I'm just doing this video, I'm doing this, like, not as if there wasn't a pandemic going on. This video will be forever, can help people at any point in time. So what I noticed was, with my experience with dealing with social anxiety, the more consistently that I socialised with people, the less social anxiety I had, or at least the more I could control it, and the less anxious I would get, and the better I could express myself, and then I could actually start really enjoying being around people, and I could, obviously you start gaining more self-confidence, more self-esteem. But I will say this, right? I'm going to be honest with everyone, as I always try and be. It's not easy getting over this. It does take a lot of work. When I look back at the amount of hours that I had to put in, the amount of fears that I had to face, but it is worth it in the long run. It's better to put all that effort and time in and have to go through all those fears, trials, tribulations, to get to a point where you feel satisfied and you're happy, and you can look back and say, look at how far I've come. And for some people that might even be a conversation where they say, social anxiety no longer ruins my life, or I've overcome it. Like I said in my videos before, I don't think you can ever completely overcome it, but I'll have to contradict what I just said for a second to tell you the honest truth about my experience. But there are periods where you can overcome it. That's what happened to me. So if people think, hang on a minute, can you overcome it, or can't you? In periods you can, if you work on it a lot and you get yourself into a good place, and you build that extrovert muscle. For us introverted people, right? I don't like labeling, but let's be honest here. I'm naturally an introvert. I had to really work at doing what I'm doing now. So you could say that I'm not a born extrovert, but you could say I built myself to be extroverted through a lot of practice, and that's a great thing that anyone can do. So yeah, there's different periods. But another thing I want to add as well, right, which is important, and some people just make you feel anxious for whatever reason, and it's not their fault, just by the way they look at you, just by their personality. My mum used to say when I was younger, and it's true, some people you just feel comfortable around. You just meet them straight away. There's a natural feeling of connection. You trust them. They make you feel, without saying anything, they make you feel that you can show yourself, and you don't have to hide or be careful, walk on eggshells. They just do that, and probably you make them feel like that, so you both like each other because you feel good around each other, you feel safe, you can connect. But some people do the opposite. They make you feel that you have to be on eggshells when you're around them, that you have to be careful what you say because they might judge you, they might not like it, or it might just be awkward between you two. Or sometimes, there's just an awkwardness, and it's not because you don't like the person, they don't like you. And it could be so many reasons. If you went to school and someone bullied you, or you didn't get along with them, and then you meet someone 10 years later who reminds you of the person that bullied you, even though it's not them and they're not bullying you, it can trigger anxiety. So these are some of the many things that I learned along my years of experience with this. But one thing I'm going to say before I end this video, there is hope for every single person with social anxiety, because if I could come so far in my life over a 10, 12 year period, and I was generally a normal person, then anybody can do it who puts their mind to it. And it's a mindset and it's practice. And I would say another thing is what helped me, and if I didn't have it, I wouldn't have bothered to improve in this area. You have to have some kind of reason, some kind of passion that's bigger than you, that's bigger than your fears of your own insecurities and other people, that will spur you on and motivate you. And I'll give you an example. If you've got terrible anxiety around people, you're just paralyzed with fear, but you're passionate about, let's say you're passionate about sports, boxing or swimming or whatever, and there's a community of people that are in that community that love the same thing you do, and they do a meetup every month. That's a good reason for you to go to that meetup. Yeah, you're going to be scared. Yeah, it's going to be uncomfortable, no doubt, but you're going to be meeting people that have the same passion that you do. You're going to get along with them, and that purpose will outweigh the fears, the insecurities, the vulnerabilities, all your demons, all the things that you're really struggling to come to terms with. And that's what happened to me. I found a community of people that were so similar to me in values and were passionate about the same thing, which was improving, which was growing, which was improving their relationships. And that really played a huge part in me getting more socially confident and learning how to better manage my anxiety. Getting to be around people that you can be honest with, and people that have also, most of the people that I really made good friends with, they also had social anxiety like me as well, and a lot of them had overcome it or had massively improved to the point where they're running their own businesses, or that they had new relationships, or they were in a place in their life where they were interacting with people on a daily basis, where before they were like me, they were scared to come out of their house. So there really is a lot of hope with this. Now the battery's really low, so I'm going to keep speaking. If it does cut out, guys, it's because the battery's low. But I've got to say, this is probably one of the most enjoyable videos that I've done. But I will share more tips on this, because these are like the best things I gave today. There are other things that will improve your social anxiety, like your lifestyle, like I said before, like getting over your porn addiction, getting your sleeping pattern right, improving your diet. You don't have to do those things to get over social anxiety, but if you do those things, what will happen is it will be a lot easier for you to get over these social fears. But another thing I want to add as well, right, which I realised, you have to remember that everyone has social fear as well. Some people might not have social anxiety disorder, like to the level that maybe you have or other people. It may not be that bad for them, but there's no way that they're that they don't have some social fear, because they do, because everyone cares what people think about them to a certain degree, and everyone's got insecurities. And meeting new people, deep down you're always going to be nervous because they're new, you don't know them, you don't know how it's going to go. But what I did was, for a 6-month period, quite several years ago, I met new people every week for 6 months. I went on a site called meetup.com, which run a lot of groups. It probably still runs now. It's a worldwide thing. And I went to all these different social groups where they did like long walks through the park, or self-help groups at the time, personal growth groups. and I was petrified, but I did it, and it gave me a lot of confidence. And I kind of, for that period, I got used to, because you just get used to it after a while. It's the same process, you go and meet new people, you feel very nervous, they're nervous, everyone's nervous, and then after maybe 20 minutes, you get a little bit warmed up, you get to know someone, you get talking, and then you get into it, and then you're okay, and then the next group you have to go for it again. So you kind of just get used to it through practice. But if you don't practice it regularly, and then you do meet new people, you're absolutely terrified because you've kind of got nothing to hang on to. So a lot of this, if not all of it, is psychological. I got to a point in my life where I knew it was a placebo, but it was a placebo that it came from the truth in that. Let me explain. So when I was going into a social situation, I did have some anxiety. I'm not going to lie about that, but I did have a lot of confidence, because in my mind it was like, well, I've got a reason to be confident, and the reason I've got to be confident is, like the week before I've given a public talk in front of like 40 people, and people have loved it, I've inspired them, and during that period I've taught like 12 different students, and a lot of them are from different parts around the world. I've helped them to build their confidence in their life. I've life coaching with them, confidence coaching, relationship coaching. At the time, I'm in a relationship, I'm in love, I've got a girlfriend, and the way that we met is, I went and faced my fear and spoke to her, and then we started dating. So I had a lot of things in the pipeline, and my life was going good, and I was passionate about helping people, family, I was getting on with my family really well. So I had all these things in the background that I was proud of, that made me feel good about who I was. And I was proud at the fact that I was constantly facing my fears. I was living my whole life outside my comfort zone. So when I was going in situations, I had all that. Imagine having all that. It's something, I know it's a bad analogy, but it's like having a rucksack full of positive things that you're proud about yourself, where before in the past I had all these things about myself that I was ashamed of, and I was terrified of other people knowing or them coming out in some kind of way, right? Like we all do. So I had more confidence than I had fear. I had more social confidence than I had social anxiety. So my social confidence here, my social anxiety was here. But that was only because, like I said earlier, guys and girls, I'd put in hours and hours of practice. And if I go back in time, when I hadn't put that practice in, my confidence was down the toilet. I had nothing to fall back on. That's why I was petrified of people. I think a big part of social fear comes from being afraid that you're not good enough around people, and that you're ashamed. You're ashamed about who you are. You're ashamed about your life, what you haven't achieved and stuff. And of course, fears of, there are other fears, like fears of people trying to bully you if you've been bullied, or fears of not getting along with people. They're the kind of surface fears, but I think deep down it comes down to the fear of not feeling secure in yourself. Even though usually these things have got nothing to do with other people. People are going to think what they're going to think. A lot of times people are not even thinking that about you, because they care about their life. People are focused on themselves. But in our own minds, we think, oh my God, what is that person going to think about me? What are they going to think if they knew my insecurities, my fears, my anxieties and so forth? But most times people don't care because they're so busy worrying about their life. But we forget that sometimes, obviously, because I guess being human and having an ego is that we're very self-orientated until we kind of snap out of it from time to time. So I've got to say, probably enjoyed doing this video than any other video in the last 7 months. I've got no idea why. Maybe some of you can let me know in the box below. Probably because I've been sleeping well, got my sleeping pattern right. Maybe I didn't force it today on this video. I'm not saying like I force it, but because I've been doing this so long, some videos, it kind of just feels like, oh, here we go, another video, even though it's my passion. Today I've really just let go. And that's how you get great at expressing yourself in social situations. You stop trying. And it's almost like, to do that you have to stop trying and just be yourself and be honest and open and just trust. And then you get into a flow. Get into a flow state with people, and people tend to absolutely love it when you've got that positive energy that you're giving them and you're just in a flow, because people realize that that's what they like about themselves. You know, it's kind of like a human language that we all understand. So I'm so confident this is going to help so many people, and I can't wait to see what kind of conversation we're going to have in the box below, because it's a topic that I really do hold this close to my heart, because I've suffered of it terribly, believe me, and I've had periods where I've overcome it and felt great. It's really horrible when you're suffering with this. It can just make you feel like your life's over, but it isn't over. So if you apply these things, and there's a few more things I'm going to share, but most of it is what I've said today, you're going to be in a great place. So yeah, if you could like, share this video, that would be great, and I'll see you in the next video for another conversation on how to be more socially confident and get over this social anxiety. All right, become fearless. Thank you for the support.